Welcome back, guys. Today I want to give you 4 tips on how to be a good manual driver. Now, I've been driving manual cars for more than a decade, and it's ranged from regular cars to sports cars all the way to trucks, and I enjoy driving all of them, but all of them have to be driven a little bit differently. Now today I'm in my Toyota GR Yaris, which is a performance rally spec car. Let's get right into it. Rule number 1: when you drive your manual car, you've got to adjust how you let off the clutch from a start. Now, I've got my GR Yaris here, and I know the rule for this car is there's very little torque built in at very low revs. And because of that, I've got to apply a fair amount of throttle to take off, as I'm doing now. But you'll see still, I'm not excessive on the throttle. I'm not revving it up to 2000 RPM or anything of that nature, but I am applying some throttle. Now, there's some cars that have even lesser power than this Toyota GR Yaris, but the way their engine's designed, they've got some down low torque. And because of that, you don't need to apply that much throttle to take off. Me personally, guys, I prefer as little throttle as possible. In fact, with some cars, you can just let off the clutch slowly and the car has enough torque to get you going. So then rule number 1 is apply as little throttle as possible when taking off. Rule number 2, a lot of guys like resting their hand on the gear shifter like so. And you know what? It's pretty good, especially in my GR Yaris, because I don't have an armrest, so it might sound pretty nice. But guys, that wears away at your transmission, and the safer thing to do is hold your wheel with both of your hands anyways when it's time to shift your gear. That's why the gear shifter is designed in sports cars, right? They always say, we've got this bit of distance to make that easy shifting. That's the intention. You've got to be controlling your car with the wheel and then shift your gear when it's time. Now, sometimes when I'm approaching a corner, I want to be ready, right? And in that case, what I do is I sort of use a hover hand, right? I sort of have my hand around the gear knob, but I'm not applying any force, just preparing myself for when I want to shift. Rule number 3, utilize intelligent manual transmission modes. Now, a lot of cars these days have this button called IMT, and I'm just gonna press it in my car, and here's what it does. Hopefully you can hear it. See, it perfectly rev matched for me. A rev match is when you downshift and your engine speed matches the speed that gear was meant to be in, so your car isn't jerking. Now, if you're not good at rev matching yourself, always turn that on because a car will rev match for you. It means less stress on your transmission. It's actually better for you. Now, if you know how to rev match and you rev match really well, then there's no need to use that anyways. But for the regular driver, I think it's a great feature. And even for my sporty driving guys, when I'm hitting corners hard or I'm having a bit of fun, I like using that feature because it doesn't unsettle the car, right? And a lot of pro drivers, they don't like that feature because they want a heavy amount of involvement. It's great, but you've got to be good at it. The next tip is knowing when to get out of your gear. Now, I'm in 3rd gear right now, and I'm at just about 2,500 RPM. Now, a lot of this is engine dependent, but I like shifting most of my cars when I'm regularly driving at around 2.5 to 2.6k RPM, because what that does is I'll shift now, that'll drop your RPM to around 2,000 RPM. And for most of my cars, when I'm driving and in gear, I like my RPM hovering somewhere around the 2,000 mark. Now, I do drive Japanese cars. A lot of German cars can sit below there, but for manual cars, I find that below 2,000 RPM just doesn't feel great. So you want to be in the right ratio for your engine. You don't want to be driving too high, right? So if I shift into 2nd gear, all of a sudden my RPM's at 3.5. I don't want to be driving like this for an hour, right? Even though the engine sounds nice. Is it going to kill your engine? No, it's built for it. But it's not great for your engine. You don't need to be doing it. Look at how high it's yelling at you. So when your RPM's at 2.5, simply shift, be in a lower RPM, and you'll be off. The final tip, guys, when you're driving sportively. When you want to have some fun, guys, a lot of people fear going to redline. The cars are built for it, guys. This Toyota GR Yaris over here, it can bounce off the red line all day. Some cars have a harder cutoff. This has a nicer fuel cutoff. The only caveat to that is make sure your car is properly warmed up before taking it to redline. And you don't want to be driving your car continuously at redline, right? You don't want to be doing 60 kilometers an hour in 1st gear with your needle sitting at 7,000 RPM. That's not the way to do it. But if you are driving in a sporty manner and you want to keep your car between 5 and 7,000 RPM wherever your red line is, that's perfectly fine. So don't fear the red line, especially in a Japanese car. A lot of them do not have good low down torque. They're designed that way. German cars have great low down torque. You need to get the best power out of Japanese cars. When you're having fun, it's okay to go to red line. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed those tips. I'll catch you next time.